This is AV SuperFriends Off the Rails, an almost regularly scheduled open discussion on audio and video in higher education. We'll sound off about our most brilliant ideas, our dumbest mistakes, and everything in between. And because this conversation will almost certainly go off the rails at some point, we'll end up covering just about everything else. And now, the AV SuperFriends. For May 12th, 2023, it's the AV SuperFriends Off the Rails. Welcome back, everybody. Time for another Friday afternoon podcast adventure with the AV SuperFriends. My name is Chris Dector. I'm joined today by Jamie, Marc, Larry, and Justin. And on today's show, we're going to discuss the truth about trends, and we're going to give you a preview of our upcoming takeover of AV and the AM. That's right. But first, it's the AV news. Dun-dun-dun. Oh, and is this one AV focused or not? Oh my goodness. So exciting.
This is a good one.
Larry found this story the other day. This is fantastic. Right up my alley.
Straight up your alley, Chris.
Link is in the show notes for you guys. But the headline is, and this comes from Inside Higher Ed, headline is Arizona State's big bet on virtual reality labs. It's not going to work. Subhead on this one, the university drops in-person labs and intro biology courses after an experiment that boosted inclusivity, but some question whether the technology can faithfully replicate scientific pursuits. So I guess the question is this going to be, is this a thing? Is this going to work, or are we now...
Well, it's clearly a thing.
It's a thing.
Yeah. It's a thing,
is it going to work in their specific instant? Maybe. But...
Goggles on, please.
I was waiting for it. Yep.
Man, you want to talk about dumping some money on some content?
Well, yeah, why not?
I mean,
but
that's not really scalable.
So I'll just let me say this at the beginning. Suffice to say, I think everyone knows my feeling on this. This is horse shit. It'll never work. But I'll let you guys take it and I'll step out. So
you don't even want to be a part of it. You're like, no, I don't want to be here.
No, I have nothing. Everyone knows my stance on this. So
from an academic side, it is an interesting concept. It follows very similar to another case I had to do a paper on my first semester. There was another biology class that back in 2006 that did an online video game called River City, and they measured the students' performance.
USA?
And it was no, it's not
River City,
that video
USA.
game. It's a different one. It's about
River City Ransom, Nintendo.
That's
great.
the one I actually played. It was about all the students were in the simulation as doctors or biologists trying to figure out what was causing everyone in the town to get sick. But what was interesting was the students' belief in their abilities had such a dramatic impact on their performance in the class that putting them in a scenario where they were playing the role of a doctor or the role of someone allowed students who had historically been poor performers to achieve much greater results than they had previously. So if that's what this is after, because they said it helped students retain, continue in the biology program before the program was losing a tremendous amount of students in that introductory. If that's what it's used for, then I can see the value in it, as long as it's then used as a scaffolding to get on to more rigorous courses.
Can I tell my story?
No,
sure.
Tell
Why
my
not?
story.
Tell it.
So back long ago, when I was in college, we also played a game, and it was economics, and it was in the business college. And what we did is we used an Excel sheet, and we did similar things, and we engaged in groups, and we did this stock market type shoe type situation. Mm-hmm. And once we got all in groups for the semester, it was a huge competition. I was, a C/D student in economics, and I got an A in that.
Was it just because you
I
learned some
didn't
formulas?
see anything in 3D, and nor did I put goggles on.
Or did you have an uncanny ability
I
to
worked
pick
in an
stocks?
Excel sheet.
But that's a curriculum that works within that medium. It's hard to do Excel sheets for a biology lab.
I'm just saying that there's...
I do not want Excel sheets
we
in
need to
VR.
separate that group activity part of this with the 3D VR part of this, because one may not be able to decipher what was the learning, mechanism that increased student engagement. Which there's a lot of variables to digest with that. So.
Yeah, Justin, you're right. That's just problem-based learning, which is, and there's too many variables for them to identify which of these is successful.
I think that this is the use case for VR in education.
I think it is.
Yep.
But
This is curriculum that is purpose-driven to solve this thing. Biology labs, chemistry labs are insanely complicated and expensive to continue. And if you have a low barrier of entry to dissect as many effing frogs and fetal pigs as you want,
you know how many frogs
then
there
you
are
can. Now,
It's like 6.
I
Step one like
so
3
yes,
a day.
I think it properly, and then the company. We're assuming there's a company providing the material in order to make this work, and it gets provided. And it's biology 101 for every high school, every college in the nation, and they're going to make money on it, whatever. But it's a low barrier of entry to study and examine these things.
I think it is,
and I think that this is the use. I think that this is equal to the. Let's say the. I know Chris goes back to the modern version of Carmen Sandiego. We'll keep going with these old video games, right? Where in the world? Let's go to Egypt with our goggles.
It's the first place people go with this crap.
But I do think that it's just like how the industry's using it when they look at and they put on their VR goggles and they're turning the engines back and forth and they're looking at how some of these 3D scans and renderings are doing. When done properly, I do believe that this is the perfect use case for VR in education. I don't think it's everybody sits in a classroom.
But you use the phrase "when done properly," and also what you're describing is customized content for these very specific
Absolutely.
At the core.
And I don't disagree with that. But what we see is this school will do this in their biology, and thus other schools go, "We'll do the same thing," and they'll try to do it on their own, or they'll just half-ass it.
Remove all of the hype out of this whole thing. IT will always seek a path to reduce costs in like simulation, right? And just the economics of this. If you're doing pieces that are replicatable over and over and over again, IT will sneak into that and try to save you money somehow. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't cost money, but over the long run, if we can get the models, pay for the models one time, if we're not having to bring in whatever the thing is and have 1,700 jet engines in this room for every student, that modeling is worth the investment because you can do it over and over. And that is the promise of IT, to reduce costs of simulation and create access.
And these entry-level courses are the same, right? Bio 101, Chem 101 is the same for everything. If it's Chem 402, okay, maybe we need to really have hands-on things, but I'm okay with this.
Right. And to go back to that, Jamie, like one of the concerns that they raised about this is with that content, you're only able to really discover what the content is already prepared to present. And so it kind of takes a scientific theory where you're looking for the unexpected. You're trying to explain what you can't explain, and it throws that out because now you're only learning what has already been learned. I think that's where the concern is with the upper level programs.
Yeah. To me, though, this is a little bit different. So the reason why I said it's not scalable, meaning this is a fictitious world and you're following this species and trying to figure out like how to save it or something like that.
This is just one facet.
Like this is just one like a little example.
I think,
so yeah, you're right. If this was biology and other universities, they could, Walmart-ify it, if you will, and the masses have it. Mm-hmm. But is that content always going to be relevant? And that's my problem with this is we buy new textbooks all the time. Once somebody spends X amount of thousands and thousands or maybe millions of dollars on a set content, how often do you think that content's going to change?
Never.
So I wonder what happens how about this, Justin? What happens when the license runs out for that company?
Yeah,
but I think,
too.
Do you all ever interact with instructors who teach like those gateway classes that the intent is to expose the students to the reality of this major, and they know walking into it that half of them may not make it through the class. Right? Doesn't it seem like this type of experience lends itself well to that? So you're not wasting real resources on materials that half the class is going to get no further value out of. Like come in, expose them to the thing. This is what it's going to be like for those that are not going to continue through here. we're glad we didn't make an investment into doing real hard.
Well, and that's a
things.
good point. If this is a biology, I think did they say 101?
Yeah, it's the entry level courses.
It's the entry level, but you could almost say it's like the biology 99 or something, where like we're just going to show you what the field is like. So you're going to take it as a 3-credit survey course or whatever.
That's the perfect opportunity for something like
I don't
this.
disagree with that. I just
you heard it. Chris said he's all about goggles. That's what I.
That's right. I am
goggles and education.
You heard me say it. I am all Goggletown now.
You are bringing goggles to Infocom.
And in fact, when they have the 400-seat lecture hall,
Infocom from my office with goggles.
Yeah. I'm not sure about 400, but at least 500.
They should take notes with their goggles on in the auditorium.
Yes.
Now, that's ridiculous.
Typical note programming in
space.
VR sounds fabulous.
Yeah, and it'll probably be Microsoft Notes, so it'll tank itself.
But you'll have to do your credential. But you'll have to take your glasses off to get your watch to do the SSO, and then put your goggles back on to be able to log into the actual.
Be like strapping a taser to your head, and
another thing about this, like somebody like Arizona State can afford to fail at something like this. Somebody like our university may not be able to. And so this is sort of the start of the have and have nots. If this is the way things are going and this is success, well, we're not going to buy into this for a long time.
I mean, it is an arms race. It is a technology and experience arms race. So why not?
I see it as it will be successful at a place like Arizona State, and then it will be immediately available to every high school senior in the country. Right. For $99, $200, you can take biology.
I thought you meant the bootleg version they'll just upload.
No, it'll be the same version. Whatever company's
through
doing
Arizona State is what you're saying.
Whatever
and they'll be able to take.
No, he's saying
college,
the company who creates the content will turn around and resell it.
Resell it to the high schools. Okay,
why
so
not?
maybe it is Arizona State. Maybe it is somebody else. These high school college credit courses where they're trying to get them through college algebra and college English and college biology. Great. We don't have that teacher in Central Missouri. We don't. There isn't one.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have a biology teacher in Missouri?
Strap these goggles on and we'll take anyone who's in Spain.
There's a lot of these rural schools that just don't. You can't get him.
Like the football coach. Hey, can you teach stuff about frogs? Like bring him in.
Yeah.
Can I?
Yeah. Well, first you need a long stick with a hook on the end of it, and then a boat in the middle of the night in a spotlight.
Gigging.
Gigging frogs.
Gigging them frogs.
You got to rip the guts out of them to cook them anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
Goggles on, please.
Perfect.
Use it twice.
Gigging frogs and goggles on. Let's do it.
All right. Yep.
Off the rails.
So there you go. We'll just look for excitement about what happens with this. Yeah. It's going to be canceled in 2 years. All right. In the meantime, we'll take a quick commercial, come back, and we'll talk about some other trends that will never be a thing. Set your alarms, everyone. The AV Super Friends are taking over AV in the AM on the Twitters. That's right, on May 21st, in just a few days, on May 21st, your precious AV in the AM will be forever ruined by the AV Super Friends. Here's how it works.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions, and I want to have them answered immediately.
Got that? Then go answer everyone else's questions. Then go comment on their answers. Then go comment on their comments about their answers to your question. Honestly, I'm not 100% sure how this works. Anyway, how do you participate? Well, first you need the Twitter, so go get that at, it's www, look it up on the internet.com, and then you wait. We're not starting anything until early on Sunday, May 21st, about 8 a.m. Eastern, after a complete balanced breakfast, or whenever we feel like it. And if we don't have things going by then, just wait longer. Search for the hashtag AV and the AM to participate. We'll see you soon. So for our first topic today, we're going to stick kind of with this overall discussion on future-looking technologies from the early 1980s. So we're kind of calling this Truth About Trends. That is to say, what things are just marketing and will never be a real thing outside of limited... The DeLorean.
That's real.
John DeLorean's wonderful, wonderful device. He and Lee Iacocca smuggled so much cocaine in that. So what things are just marketing and which things are actually real? What things, they may not be real today in the sense of I've got, 300 rooms full of them, but they may be something in the future.
Well, some of this marketing BS is real. It's just not good.
All right, well, I think that's fair to say. So
it's a thing that people invest in.
It's actually real. It's just not.
And I'm not saying that something that's just
Yeah.
marketing by that is something that doesn't actually exist. I'm just saying, is it a thing that is it something we are actually going to use wide scale in AV systems moving forward? Who wants to start? I mean, I'm happy to lead off. But,
pick somebody and just go.
all right, I'm going to start then because I'm talking. No, I don't do that. Okay, Marc, go.
No, shit, I wasn't ready. So the ones I want, you hear a lot about this, right? There's so much Zoom and all this stuff. And how many times have you seen the ad, make your Zoom and your events more broadcast capable or broadcast ready and all that, right? It's not, I don't think it's real. I don't think Zoom and Teams and that are broadcast. I don't look at it that way. Now, if they were saying make them more professional looking and more polished, I think I would believe that, or make them seem more professional, but don't confuse Zoom and broadcast and Teams and broadcast and a bunch of web cameras as broadcast, because I don't really think that it is. Now, we're going to split some hairs. There's broadcast and broadcasting. Yes, you can broadcast out of a thing, out of your thing, and yet technically by the definition of broadcasting is, but don't assume that because you're broadcasting to YouTube that you are broadcast ready, like over the air, no shit broadcasting, or
well, I guess my question is,
like
for point of clarification, where is that line? Because I mean, if I take a full TV studio and I neck that down to a USB encoder and fire it off through Zoom, is that, I mean, it's a live stream of a broadcast environment. Is that the same thing or not?
Define
your front end is broadcast ready, but your back end is not.
Because I'm throwing away all of that high quality lighting and sound and cameras, and it's going out as a 360p stream at very low bit rate.
I think broadcast is shot, in particular news. Broadcast news has absolutely shot themselves in the foot by utilizing these systems, even the quote Sunday morning shows now don't even put they're letting the guests have their own living room Zoom to join these, and they're allowing the degradation of content
on their AirPods.
A lot of it's not even Zoom, it's WebEx.
Quote, into
same thing. Doesn't matter.
Broadcast. And then I think the mix up is on the flip side too, where these platforms, we'll call them that, these platforms are giving you broadcast experience because they gave you the ability to have program and preview, multi-view selections, and maybe pipe in and mix the audio, where in the past it was, no, you get what we give you. Whoever's talking gets to be the big picture, and if they're sharing, they're the biggest picture. And now we're going to give you a broadcast experience, except it's trash too. So
isn't Zoom marketing that as their event platform?
Yes, they are.
Or event, like not broadcast
but that's,
necessarily.
to me, I don't recognize that as this is going on TV as broadcast.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, but is that the definition of where it ends up?
Not necessarily. But do you think is Zoom itself? Do you recognize, is that a broadcast? I mean,
no, I don't see it.
Well, that's why I was asking what you mean by broadcast, because I don't disagree that taking, to Jamie's point, a crummy webcam and sending that out over television is not the same as having a proper lensed camera with lighting.
And I think
and all the rest
the spirit of this
long
is
hair
that
behind it.
There is a qualitative piece of this, right? When we broadcast should have a higher level capture and delivery through the whole stack, right?
Through the whole chain.
The whole chain, end to end. And I'm not saying you have to go out and spend a whole lot of money to have broadcast. That's not what I'm saying either. I don't think UVC quality is broadcast quality.
What would you say to the esports events that broadcast? I'm using air quotes for those who can't see, over Twitch.
Good job.
Because I've watched some of those on Twitch because of our program here on campus, and I come from a broadcasting background. I worked in the news for a little bit and all that. And I agree, it's not that same level, but it's higher than...
Yes, that is a lot better than a Zoom or a Teams call shared to an encoder that's going out over the air somewhere. That's not broadcast quality. Like scraping just a computer screen, it's not quite there. Now, I'm not saying you're not broadcasting. That's not what I'm saying. You are sending a thing out to multiple people by the very definition. You are broadcasting. Yes, but
so you're using broadcast as like capital B broadcast,
right? The capital B broadcast. So when
noun and adjective,
yes,
we got to separate those two.
Action versus thing, right? And so I think that it's easy to get hung up and like, oh, I'm going to be able to do broadcast quality events from the Zoom or whatever it is. It's like, no, there are platforms, yes, virtualized platforms that allow you to do more broadcast things, vMix, with enough time and energy and to correct things, OBS, all that stuff. You can have a more aligned broadcast event and go live because they're tuned to deal with professional level broadcast spaces as well. There's other pieces under the hood. I think the secret's in, I think people are using make your events broadcast capable or more broadcast as a sales pitch to make it sound like, oh, my Zoom, if I get this magic widget, is going to be all of a sudden this TV quality event. And that's just not true.
Shot from my living room with my laptop camera on my AirPods. Yeah.
So buyer beware when it comes to that language that you see. Now, when you're looking for things in that, like, spoiler alert, our broadcast cameras are probably not going to connect to a computer via USB cable. Not to say it can't, and you can't do it.
Make
it.
Yes, I can do that.
You can adapt it and get it there, but most broadcast stations are probably not using that as their preferred method to deliver that image to you. Just pro tip. It's probably
so. Again, I do want to raise that question. What if we have an appropriate studio space? We're doing an event. We've got a 3-camera shoot. We've got the appropriate lighting and the sound, and we've got the appropriate crew and the right cameras and the right switchers, and we're doing everything we would ordinarily that would normally go out to a truck and then go out on the network. But we are taking a feed of that of the program feed as the director calls it, and it goes out to a USB encoder, and then we do a stream of that. Is that
you just said it
at that level? Is that
your stream
functionally broadcast quality of a stream?
The quality, yes, would qualify as a broadcast quality. Okay, the stream would qualify, but you did all the other steps ahead of that.
Yeah.
Right. You did
and I think that's what people think when they hear
Zoom out of the box.
Right. I think that's what they hear when people say, "Oh, we're going to do a broadcast quality Zoom event." Well, it would be if everything up into the Zoom point is done that way. Then
maybe I'll hang out here and say maybe there are more broadcast-ish transitions and screen layouts. But not necessarily.
If it has a star wipe, you're broadcasting.
Yeah, as long as there's a star wipe and sparkle effect, you're set. Yeah, you're
so
broadcast.
It's dirty streaming masked with broadcast type.
Yes,
I think the key here is that the current marketing, says this is broadcast ready equipment from your Logitech webcam. And I think that's the marketing BS that Marc is calling.
Well, and I'll go one step.
There's more to it.
I'll go one step farther than that and say that putting 2 PTZ cameras and a USB powered ring light in a space does not make your event or your classroom or your conference room broadcast quality.
You just ruined me.
So knock it off.
Maybe a little bit better.
I don't disagree. Those things improve. Just aiming somebody's laptop webcam at them.
I will say there are professionals who are so good at their craft, they can take crappy tools and make them look good.
Oh, absolutely.
But but that doesn't necessarily mean, there is professional.
I know y'all were talking about me.
Well, I didn't want to come out and say it, but we're talking about Justin. So,
Justin, the master of NDI.
But I don't think you're just going to get a off-the-shelf plugin that's just going to make crappy stuff just look magically good. That it's going to be,
Marc, it's $99 for this software, and it says it makes it broadcast quality.
That's the exact point I'm trying to make.
There it is. All right. So what's real, Marc? What's real?
The proper tool to capture the space the right way, right? And so look at the real tool sets. Don't be stumped by just software. I don't think there's a magic software out there that's going to give you broadcast
But
stuff.
vMix does.
Gives you capabilities, but it's still heavily reliant upon the front end. You're going to have a professional level tool that's going to do it right. You're going to be able to have control over your lighting. You're going to have all the settings and pieces you need for an actual broadcast environment, or your cameras, your microphone systems, all that. You're going to have a full-fledged toolkit with those. They're not just going to be an on-off. Like in volume, like there's going to be more.
What if I buy a TriCaster and just stuff it into the signal chain?
Well, you bought a broadcast quality system.
Did I?
And turned it into garbage.
You can do a lot with it. Don't get me wrong. You can do a lot of things.
Yes,
to me, I don't think you're going to get what you pay for, right? And I'm not saying you have to pay millions and millions of dollars to have broadcast capable, but there is the right tool, and there are lots of companies out there that do sell broadcast quality pieces and equipment that are affordable, but they're probably not no-name.
No, I would argue that you could probably get 90% of the way there to production TV quality for a couple of grand.
Yeah.
If you buy the right stuff and you have a couple of people who know how to operate it
correctly. It's the knowledge, right? The right tool with the right knowledge can get you to that broadcast. There's not a quick thing you're just going to buy. It's going to give you.
But I took a 2-hour training course. I'm good.
Right, you're fine. It was in VR, so you probably was a lot of
LinkedIn learning.
Yeah,
it's all the future.
So I don't know. I think it's just be careful in the literature you see out there. I think it's easy, and it's so popular now that people are doing this quote unquote broadcasting from everywhere. It's easy to think there's a foolproof way. Many of you may have got the request for somebody wants, we want to do a little recording studio over here and we can start doing our broadcasting, blah, blah, blah. It's just, we found these things on Amazon. It's like, let's have a conversation about that. Yep. So that's my take.
All right.
What do you think?
I don't disagree with any of that.
Well, then I'll do another one. Then I want to find one you disagree with. So
you failed.
So I'll go next as far as what's fake and what's real. So I'm going to say that the thing that is a purely marketing BS that's a trend is USB-C, and I mean USB-C as the panacea, one thing that will do it all. I just plug this in. I just buy stuff with USB-C and it works and it does everything I need. It does my audio and video. It does my UVC connections. It does my AV bridging. It does all of that.
Chris, you should go back and listen to the show we recorded with Cornwall.
Yes.
Wait. Go listen to it.
All right. Hold on one second. All right. So that version of USB-C as this thing, this mystical, magical thing that will work for every device in every scenario to do every possible operation necessary is marketing BS. Don't believe it. On the other hand.
Wait a minute. So you're saying it doesn't always work that way?
People
has
who go
it
looking
ever
for
worked that way?
Have you guys gotten these? Well, it works that way enough to make people think that it will do that. But have you guys started to get the recent request to say, and can we do USB-C in here? Because they think, well, that's how my computer connects to my dock, or that's how this thing plugs in over here, or that's the thing on my phone. So if we do that, it will do all of these connections, all of the protocols, all of the power and the charging and the network. It'll be fantastic. That's fake.
All in one connector, Chris. Just buy into it, man. Just don't fight it.
Cost me $99.
Most of the time works.
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna deploy things based on most of the time.
Does that mean like 51% of the time it works? That's technically most.
50.1.
Yeah, I mean, how often do you see my stuff mess up here? And I'm running USB-C everything.
Yeah, Justin is a walking commercial for USB-C.
I'm not going to answer that. Yeah.
Like this is it's not so bad. Come on,
you're right.
Chris.
You're right. Maybe most of the time it works.
Okay.
So then let me give you the flip side here. The thing that is real related to this is USB-C. And by which I mean USB-C used and deployed correctly.
Yeah.
So I think of all of us, I think Jamie's the one who stumbled onto this first, is like, screw it. I'm just going to put a proper USB hub immediately after the 1 meter long cable, break out all the signals to their appropriate devices, audio, video, networking, power, etc. And then it does work most of the time.
52%.
Yeah, I'm copying that, by the way.
I have discovered that most of the times percentage went from 51% to somewhere in the vicinity of 76%.
Ah, see?
There are too many devices that don't actually take advantage of all of that. And I have had more Dell or HP or Mac laptops be plugged in and they go, well, I only got 4 of the 5 things you promised me.
But I'm not designed to have all those other things.
Hey, that's a win.
Mark, you hit the nail on the head.
Right, exactly.
I'm not designing around a single connector that will do all of these guaranteed things because I don't trust it. And the problem is by very definition, this device or this connector is designed to connect to other people's devices over which we have no control. And while they may have a shared USB connector, because the USB-C spec is USB Type-C for those of you yelling at your car stereos, is
Pages from
only the
the
connector. It has nothing to do with the protocols behind it. It's even worse than HD-based-T was in that sense. But I have had people ask about, they want USB-C as their only connection at the lectern, in the computer lab, all this stuff. The problem is then they say, hey, we're having trouble because my laptop shows up on all 3 monitors and I get network and I get charging, but this other laptop doesn't. Yes, you have no control over what shows up as a display link, display port, the display port, the multi-stream transport with the multiple displays behind it. How much power are you charging and what happens? I ran into this one the other day. Different devices, when maybe they require 75 watts and that cable is only delivering 60, and they'll go to like that low power charging mode or low speed charging mode, but they'll also disable certain features on the computer because it's not running at full tilt. That's fun to find out, even though the little thing in the corner beeps and shows you that you're plugged in. So that's where USB-C falls apart. Where it works is when you provide it, or when you design it in to be integrated as a secondary, as an also, as something that can do multiple things, maybe for some people and some devices, we don't know, but there's still way too many questions around it. So USB-C is both as far as the trend, is both marketing BS and a real thing.
Yes.
It's just a hose. It doesn't care what you want to put through it. It's just a connector.
I don't know. Have you ever tried to push dirt through a hose?
I know. That's what I'm saying. You can have the same problem with USB-C. Try to jam some dirt through there.
I haven't either. I'm just making shit up.
Yeah. But I think that's what makes it so tricky, though, right? It's like it's
The
all
potential
dependent
is-
upon what upstream thing has capable. And
that's the thing over which you have no control.
Right.
And the potential is the the 76% success rate is why I decided that it is a real thing to put in and utilize as a secondary input device, not the primary.
And Jamie, you just said it there. I think I'll even amend my statement to say USB-C is not a thing. The potential of USB-C is a thing.
Yes.
I look at USB-C more as a network connector, as weird as it is. Like it's I don't look at it as like a video spigot or something.
Well, you just wedge that into your RJ45
connector.
But I'm not saying it isn't.
Hammer
But
it into
it's
all kinds of
That
if you
made me
think of it
feel
more
dirty.
that, but don't look at it as an
zero
audio.
trust architecture is
That's
not
what I'm
like
saying.
in this discussion.
But I feel like if you treat it more like a network, you have to have all that additional awareness before you're going to do it. It's not a video and audio spigot. It is not that.
Whoa.
Oh, I see
So
what
you're
you're saying.
saying people are aware of what they're doing? They're plugging shit up to a network?
I think it's the same thing. You will all pause before you just hand out, here's this LAN cable, go ahead and plug it in. You're going to be like, no, it's not going to work. You have to have that same level of awareness when you start to do USB-C out there.
Yeah, but I wouldn't
Okay.
give people a LAN cable sitting out on the table and just saying, here, have fun.
And nor should you a USB-C.
Why not? I do that too. I'm like, I've discovered that I shouldn't do a lot of things that I'm doing.
Because it's more of a
Every
data
single
pipeline than
day.
it is a media pipeline.
Yes.
That's my point. So
Yeah.
Well, and that's the challenge. USB-C, much like, and again, we keep using that the colloquial vernacular of USB-C to mean the underlying transport, but we use it the same way we do HD-based-T. It can do all of these things most of the time, probably, but
maybe.
Yeah.
Except on Sundays.
So there you go. That's my the thing that is not a thing and also a thing. Maybe it's a thing down the road. Who's next?
I'll go next.
Go next, Justin.
So this is not necessarily real or fake, but
It's fake.
I believe it is marketing BS. So
I'm gonna
if you
type
listen
that into
to
Google.
prior
real or fake things.
real or fake things, this is not
but
necessarily
focus on the
real or
marketing.
fake.
Yes, yeah.
This is marketing BS, but we've had lively discussions about this, and I do believe we're all on the same page here. But the easy button for configuring network switches for AV over IP, that's marketing bullshit. Now, is it real? Yes. Does it work? Yes. Is it a time saver? Yes, as long as you know what's happening on the back side of that easy button, where the real AV over IP, where you have to figure out all your different protocols and everything that's mixed in on the network. You've got different network settings, and you got to understand what packets are hitting what layers, and you're able to get metrics from it. Yeah, that's probably real AV over IP. We're doing both. We've done both. We're doing the easy button, and we have closed off AV over IP systems. And that's just because of how our network architecture is at our campus. So,
Justin, can I add some version of that on there to that? Because I think it's easy to say the switch. There are wholesale manufacturers out there that will sell you
for an
easy
ecosystem.
button AV over IP
ecosystems.
And yes, you'll know it because we take care of all the networking for you. That should be your first red flag. If they're taking care of all the networking for you, that is a problem.
An audio thing,
right?
Yeah.
And so I think it extends to things beyond the switch. I think there are endpoints and manufacturers and wholly owned like ecosystems that do easy button AV over IP.
The network switch is the culprit now because what is the weakness of the AV world altogether? It's networking. And so manufacturers are like, hey, if we develop an easy button, more AV people are going to buy our switches. So it means more profit. And that's what they did.
Yes, but there's different verticals in that woven into that.
But the easy button extends out to all devices everywhere. Yes. And you'll see more of this. As you buy this ecosystem, you just hit this button, the speakers are tuned, everything just works, all the microphones, you buy our microphones too, everything's perfect.
No, I'm all about automation, but I like easy button automation. I'm not a fan of manufacturers who sell product to say this, we're going to do AV over IP. We'll take care of all the networking for you, and they spin up all the stuff.
You just plug it in, and it'll just magically.
Yes,
let's parse that out, though, Mark. You don't feel comfortable with the networking portion, but you feel comfortable with the audio portion because you have the audio skill sets to back that up if something goes wrong. But your team may not have the networking background to fix a problem.
Well, I don't know if it's that
after the easy button's pressed on the network side.
I think the real question is your solution enterprise ready or not? And I'll go one step further and say, I don't believe you're AV over IP if you're on an island network. I think you're just replacing HDBase T and transport.
But I don't disagree.
You're not going to see the true value of AV over IP.
I think you could make the argument though that no, I'm going to disagree with that. You can make the argument that would be AV over IP depending on the size and scope of your deployment. Because AV over IP means I can software select and reestablish subscriptions to different streams on the fly based on or programmatically or manually. But that could be on a closed network. Now, if you're saying from the standpoint of in an enterprise, if the first thing you're doing is creating an island for your AV over IP, then you're not doing it correctly. You need to start your conversation with your network team so that 2 or 3 or 5 years later you have that. But I'm not going to argue that just saying blanket it's not. I will, however, give you the caveat that if your system is functionally point to point, I've got one encoder and one decoder, then in a closed 192 network, then knock it off and just go HDBase T and save yourself the $3,000
switch with an easy button
switch. So I don't think, to me, it's the value proposition again, right? I don't understand manufacturers who say, "Oh, you just throw it on your network. We'll take care of all the networking for you." Like you can't say both of those things. You're not allowed to say both of those things in an enterprise environment. So to me, that was that's how I interpret it. But I cut you off, Justin. Please proceed.
Yeah, this was Justin's thing. Yeah. How did we get...
No, there's a lot of different things to break down with this, though. Mm-hmm. And what I wanted to focus on was making sure people understand the value of the easy button and where it can bite your ass and know the difference of the two. Because the easy buttons can save you a lot of time. Well, your ass gets
so Justin, give me a scenario where that sort of automatic setup configuration, whatever, does make sense. Where do you use that? Where it's like, hey, this is legit. It saves a bunch of time and it works every time.
So we do that a lot in classrooms where we need 3 inputs and 2 outputs or some weird stuff. And I don't want to buy all this 8x4 matrix switch or whatever. And it actually financially makes sense to go AV over IP in a lot of those situations, even though...
Yeah, if you're buying matrix switches, just to people out there, if you're buying a matrix switch in 2023, you're doing it wrong.
Right, exactly.
Homes,
and so we aren't doing...
is house of worship.
Where you're not on a giant enterprise network.
Well, we do it in classrooms, but our classrooms greatly differ because we don't really have standards. So,
Yes.
It's the Wild West.
All right. Yeah. No, I'm tracking you on this. I think.
But with our standard classrooms, what are we still doing? We're still
doing
HDBase T with a button.
Yeah, where are we at here? Pick one.
There's a lot of different definitions of standard.
Kind of all over the road here, man.
With our, I know it's I don't even want to describe it because it'll just take way too long.
About to get pulled over.
We'll just go with Justin doesn't understand standards. How about that?
All right, so that's
lost his water.
So what
Larry's
is
Justin?
Justin,
Drinking water about lost his water.
Yeah, that's the marketing. What's the real thing?
What's the real thing? Yeah, what's the real deal?
The real deal is, well,
I didn't think
the
that's right.
opposite of the easy button, right? I mean, you're
hard
sitting
button.
there configuring the network switch, you're
Difficult mode.
configuring your endpoints, you're setting up
Admin
everything the
mode.
way it needs to be set up for the room environment. You're commissioning the system properly.
So you
know
log
the
into
ins and
something for the
outs.
first time and you just look for where's advanced. Give me advanced.
That just sounds slow.
Give me the hardest thing to do. No, it's
mode.
not just that. It's
I'm going to
multifaceted
change the
here,
iframe
obviously.
on this. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, let's see what happens when I invert. What does
Doing
this
it all in
invert button do?
IPv6. Screw y'all. Figure that shit
Real
out.
intentional. No,
So what's
real
legit
AV
marketing?
over IP. It's all real. The marketing BS to me is all about the easy button and just be careful with what you're pressing. When you do a real AV over IP real AV over IP deployment, there needs to be some real knowledge with your staff and your designers and your support team about what's happening on the background of your audio systems and your network and your video systems as a holistic one. What?
Here's where I go with this.
Yeah.
And it sounds really horrible. You'll know you have the right stuff if you plug it in and it just doesn't work. Because it's probably
like the
not
first time?
It's not going to pull IPs. It's not going to do all that stuff. You're not going to.
But the
It's
easy
not
button
going
does
to
that.
work. The easy button will make it all just work because it does it all for you. You go ahead and take a bunch
Exactly.
of stuff that's ready, just drop it on your network and see what happens. Your NOC team's going to call you right away. They're going to say, "What are you doing? What's all this multicast shit I'm seeing everywhere?"
They'll only see it for 2.5 seconds.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's
That's why I keep a couple of dumb switches around. I plug that into the network and the guys call me. So it's faster than
So
submitting
that's
a ticket.
real AV over IP if you get a call from your network engineer.
No.
you're doing it
That's
right.
what I'm saying. It's faster than submitting a ticket for assistance. I just plug in a dumb switch. and
You'll see
undo
like
the
real
port.
protocol, like on the language. You'll see standards. You'll see all that piece of it. It'll be written for an IT professional. It's not going to just be like we take care of it all for you. Like look for the real protocols, the real language, right? So
Well, it's in there in the manual.
it should be on the box.
Is it?
I don't know.
Should have a
Is it on
MAC
the
address.
box?
Let's start with a MAC
I've had
address
a
on the
couple
box. Does it
show
have a
up
MAC
lately
address
where
or
it
multiple
wasn't.
MAC addresses on the box?
All right. Okay, what else we got?
That's some loose definitions for
There's a
real
MAC
AV
address on the
over
box,
IP.
Mark. I think we're good.
See, there you
Yes.
go. And I use those, and I press the easy button, and it's
Yeah.
And I've got
Every Apple device I buy has a MAC address on it. It's something Cupertino, California. No, sorry, dead
Okay.
jokes.
real
All right.
AV over IP.
Who's next? Who's next?
Jamie's next
All
with
right.
his terrible jokes.
Yeah.
That's what you get.
Boom.
That's what you get.
So, marketing fad. Current marketing that we're seeing, the immersive educational / conferencing experience. I think we've seen this with the hype of using direct view LEDs a la Disney. And then let's bring this into a classroom, or the Barco WeConnect thing, where it's just a single instructor speaking to these giant displays of heads. The advanced green screens, not the everyday Zoom background bullshit, like the real studio grade.
like Wizard of Oz?
It essentially is that experience where the instructor is by themselves like an actor in an immersive environment. And we're seeing it. I mean, we've seen maybe a school in the Los Angeles area who has white paper after white paper after article, who might be, that maroon and yellow color.
UCLA?
Close to there. It's just
That
down the
sounds
road, I
right.
think. But we see that, and I think it's cool, and I think there's spaces for this, but I think it is a fad, and it is, I started down the path of actually designing and installing and getting ready to commission this, and the school came back and said, I don't think we're really ever going to use that, so can you just make it into a regular studio, please?
Okay.
And, because all of these things are the one button.
So you're saying specifically like the real high-end, high-level, like live content production spaces, but in a conference room.
Yes, or a classroom. Yes.
Well, yeah, in one of
Either
our
or,
spaces, because if you're building a dedicated studio, it would make sense. But if you're trying to wedge that stuff into a classroom, it's just silly.
Yeah, your take that this is never going to be like a standard style deployment.
No,
get a lot
but
of these spaces.
We keep seeing this being promoted. I would even throw in some of the new BS from like the front row thing from Microsoft, where you're sitting 6 feet away and they made all the people bigger on the bottom so you could see them and be immersed in your meeting.
Isn't that just the Cisco telepresence from 20 plus years ago?
I think. What happened to that? That's a fad that kind of.
It'll be back.
You're saying we don't all have telepresence rooms in every building on campus? It's the future, man.
Oh, we will.
It's coming.
It's coming back. It'll be a new service contract for you somewhere. Yeah.
But I think it's a current fad. I think it's cool. I think there's uses, but it's a fad. It's going to go away.
Do you think
any disagreements?
I don't. I'm not sure I have a lot of asks.
Shut up, Mark. Anybody else?
Sorry. Damn it.
I think the big challenge with any of that stuff right now is to do it well and do it right. It costs way more than people want to pay.
Yes.
And to do it well and right without
scalable.
Extra people to manage the technology.
Good point. Yes. Yeah.
Bingo.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm headed with
Yep.
this.
It's super labor intensive.
Full-time employee just sitting there waiting for somebody to show up to help them out.
All right, Mark, I feel bad. What were you going to say?
No, I had many asks for it. Like I don't know if anybody's really said we want to do this floating head wall of people behind me so I can talk and just I don't know if I have that same ask anymore.
I've gotten it from.
Has anybody been asked?
Business school.
You did?
Because
it would be from the business school if they're going to do it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's business
I
school.
did business school like
Harvard
that.
came out with all of theirs. Somebody else is using.
Do you have
the
any idea
barcode
how many
thing.
people, how many IATSE members run that Harvard thing every freaking time they fire it up? There's like a team of like 8 people every time.
But they don't
Justin's
ever.
over there doing it.
They don't see that part, right?
They don't show
And they
that.
don't advertise that part either.
Correct. Yeah.
So that's. But I've seen some more of that kind of stuff come up of production of classrooms of the future bull crap, and it's a fad. It's going away. Anyway,
all right. What's
things that
real
I think real marketing. I'm starting to see more of this, but direct transport of AV, so AV over IP, on the WAN, not using these intermediary codecs. That you are taking your camera, using SRT, using NDI,
native.
using even we'll go with audio, the Dante connector thing. But to take your AV and have low latency, real time direct transport, we're seeing the pipes build up that you can now push that both ways across a network, a wide area network. And I think you're seeing marketing around it, and it's still at this high level of you can do it. But I think it's really going to happen. And I think we're going to start getting rid of these Zoom contracts and these team contracts, and we're just going to pipe your camera right into where you need it to be.
I
Just
think
hit connect. Just hit that easy button.
Yeah, the easy button. I think the unfortunate part, Jamie, of that reality is the Trojan horse that's going to bring that to us is going to be the Teams rooms and the Zooms rooms of that. I think they're going to be the ones that enable that capability through just protocol adoption, and that's I'm guilty for looking at the Teams room because I think it is very powerful in concept. Because I think,
guys, we're losing Marc.
I know I'm going to the dark side. Unfortunately, the business folk within our campus, they want that experience, and it's hard to give them that another way.
They think they want that.
They think they want it.
I would believe you if I didn't think that those companies were going to completely butcher and bastardize these protocols. We're talking SMPTEs. These AES,
I agree.
These big protocols, we're already seeing it happen in let's go back to broadcast. Major League Baseball, Major League Soccer, all of them use this now. And I think it's only a matter of time before we are too. I don't want to agree with you. Yes, I agree with you, but they're going to screw it up so bad.
I'm not
it's going to make
saying
me
I
angry.
I don't agree with them simply because there's no incentive for either party to start becoming interoperable at this point. So why would they adopt a standard that makes them that?
No, I'm not saying they're going to work with one another. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you're already hearing the chatter about Teams room and Zoom rooms and Teams rooms adopting like real deal AV over IP transport, native I's and O's from the platforms, right? And so to move it around your WAN, like you said, And to me, they're going to do that and offer that out as experience. And then 10 years down the road when they replace it, you're like, why do we have to put all this other stuff back in? When we had this Teams room, we just put it on the network and it showed up on the projector. That's what I want to do. Why am I having to put all this other stuff in? So I think it's interesting to like unpack that video switcherless system. I think it is an AV over IP play. So
anyway, that's what I think. Larry?
It's me now.
It's you.
So the fad, and this is only because every conference I've gone to, every time they discuss Hyflex, it's always followed with the phrase, gives the students an equitable experience.
As much as possible.
Yeah. And I'm like, we can make good Hyflex rooms, but it's not an equitable experience. I'm assuming in this fictitious world we can.
Harvard can. It only takes 257 people to run it.
But even so, if you had 30 students in the room who can converse when they don't understand each other, they can lean over to their neighbor, they can see the interactions with the other students, they're experiencing things differently, and it's not the same. And as long as we all understand that and we quit using this phrase equitable experience, and like it's just, it doesn't correctly illustrate the struggles that the instructor is going to have reaching all the students the same way. So that's just my, like, we're painting it a little with happy little trees and everything else all the way around it. And it's just not like it's not, it is a system to instruct, but it's not an equitable experience for all the students. So that's my one that I think the trend will eventually, it'll either die or it'll start to get renamed or understood better.
Or everybody wears goggles.
Or everybody, even the ones in the room wear goggles,
for everybody.
then it's an equitable experience.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
if everyone's experience sucks, it's okay.
That's the Harrison Bergeron model of education.
Worse for all. Is there any difference in between access and equitability? So I want to say that people confuse that. Giving a student access to a room via surveillance technology is not necessarily equitable.
Correct.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly the point. Like, yes, they're all experiencing the class, but they're experiencing the class in different ways. Mm-hmm. So that's just the one thing that I've kind of rubs me the wrong way, even more so than people equating Hyflex and hybrid. That's a whole
Those
other
are the same thing, right?
Are you lumping that kind of like all the stuff that says, hey, if you put this stuff in here, it's going to give you a more equitable experience kind of a thing?
Like,
okay, I got you.
If you mic the entire room, that gives the students at home an equitable experience. Not really, because the students in the room, our ears are smarter than the mics, and we can focus on the instructor. The students at home is hearing the person in the back room tap their pencil all day long.
And crumple their paper and all the other shit going on, the AC handlers,
which
all that.
Adds cognitive load that the person in the room doesn't experience. So it's not equitable.
Man, that sentence, Larry, that was
cognitive load.
Yeah, that was that.
Don't give me that.
Academic.
Almost everyone here has their CTSD, and that's on the freaking test.
Somebody reads books.
So the other one, and this was one that came up recently because I was talking with my director about the return to office initiative that's happening in the business world right now. Mm-hmm. A lot of the startups and all are seeing that the younger employees aren't getting the same type of experiential learning, that stuff that can't be, there's a qualitative learning that happens, not the quantitative. You can't really say exactly, how all this happens. It just kind of osmosis takes place. And I think we're going to see the same thing in higher ed, and it's going to highlight the value of students actually being in class, and how it affects AV trends is we're going to have to start focusing on classrooms that create space for that collaborative learning more so. Those active learning rooms that everybody hates for whatever reason, I like them. We're going to see a real
I hate poorly
need.
designed active learning rooms.
We're going to see a higher demand for those types because students have missed part of that learning environment. And if we are trying to sell them on coming back to the classroom, we need to highlight how that learning environment is different than the one that they've experienced.
Well, they should ask Justin because he's a salesman.
No, they should ask me because we've been pushing for, everybody's throwing cameras in their classrooms everywhere and microphones, and we're, hard, fast. No,
some of us are also hooking them up.
No, we're not hooking them up either.
Just runs by and throws them in the room and walks away.
Here's your camera. See you, bye.
Good luck.
I'm still putting cameras and mics everywhere, but I'm like, I can see the push to get students back into that experience.
We've always pushed for that, just because I think that's what we had to market, because that's what our bread and butter is, brick and mortar university. So
I think you would be hard pressed to make the blanket argument that attending a class from your dining room, from a coffee shop, or from sitting on your bed, in your bedroom, or whatever it is, trying to watch it while you're on your dinner break at lunch, is the same as being in a classroom with other students. But yet a lot of people, I think, will try to make that argument.
Yeah. Can the information be conveyed through that medium and modality? Sure, but I don't think that speaks to the quality of the experience.
Well, and that how to best, I'm trying to think how to phrase this, that like stream of information, like, the book or the instructor or the discussion is just one stream that would be taking place in that classroom, in that physical space, that classroom space. So there's a side discussion.
There's multiple time zones going on. People can have parallel conversations. When you're online, you're getting just the only single stream you're being exposed to, unless you have all the paper crumpling. And all
but it is broadcast quality, so we're fine.
Yeah, it's USB. It's USB. It's fine.
So, okay. All right. Well, there you go. There's a whole bunch of things that are marketing BS and some things that are actual things.
So I got a question. Why did the 360 camera not show up on our list? Did we just bash it so hard that we just kind of leave it alone for a while?
It's clearly a real thing, Justin.
That's real.
But
you're not putting those in every room?
Easy button.
I have gotten 3 separate requests for those. Like, it's too late. That time is...
Yeah, we missed that. There's nothing we're going to say that's going to keep that from being reality.
Do you want me to ship you a few, Larry?
Yeah, actually, if they're a cheaper price, then I can get them.
All right. So, well, there you go. We'll take a quick break. Come back. We're going to talk about AV and the AM. Psst, hey, come here a minute. You want to hang out with the AV Super Friends more often? Like every day at odd hours? Well, we're not going to do that. That's weird. Why would you want to do that? However, we are hosting our own Discord server, and we're inviting you to join. And to keep things exclusive to AVSF supporters and listeners, we're going to make you jump through a single hoop to get there. Here's how. You have to request an invite. That's it. Okay, how do you do that? Well, you can submit a message via the contact form on our website, avsuperfriends.com. Or you can email us, mailbag@avsuperfriends.com. Or you can DM us on Twitter, @avsuperfriends. Or you can send us a message on LinkedIn. Yes, it's AV Super Friends. Or you can shout really, really loud. That might not work. But keep trying anyway. You're going to get locked up if you do that. Or you can drive past AVSF World Headquarters in lovely, scenic Centralia, Pennsylvania, and throw a rock through our window. Just write your name on it. Also keep shouting. Or send a self-addressed stamped envelope to AVSF Discord, P.O. Box 169, Egmouth, Minnesota Nuts, 0042. I'm not sure about that last one. It sounds fake. So there you go. We want you to join our Discord server. It's our little corner of the internet to share ideas, ask questions, brainstorm, complain about industry trends, or name and shame people, products, and organizations. And as an added bonus, if you act today, you'll receive one of Justin's dogs. He's got like 7 of them. Also, you'll get access to live broadcasts of our audio-only recording sessions. Seriously, you'll get to listen to us before the show is published as a polished and edited MP3. So what are you waiting for? Join us now. So, final segment here. I'm just going to turn this one over to Larry. Larry, what the hell is AV in the AM and what's going on with that?
Throw it at you.
Nice.
Otherwise, I'm just going to intro it and then ask him these questions. So,
yeah, you could have given me some head up. This is not in the notes.
Heads up, Larry. We're coming to you after this commercial. Ready?
Okay. There's notes?
There's notes, and this wasn't in it.
This is missing.
So, AV in the AM, Chris Netto was gracious enough to invite us to mess the whole thing up. Mm-hmm. So we're going to go on next Sunday, the 21st. We're going to kind of ask
May 21st, just in case somebody's listening to this next year.
True.
Oh,
May 21st,
Just go there.
Those of you listening in August
23.
We have 5 questions plus a bonus question. They're all about industry trends, very similar to what we've already done here, but we're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive, and we want some feedback from everybody. We're going to talk about things like standardization being forced by certain manufacturers and platforms, talk about AV over IT, and talk about even things like the commoditization of AV. You know, things that we see happening within the industry and what we're looking for at Infocom about those things.
Right.
So
You're making me
good
wake
enough?
up at 5 to start doing this? Is that what
this
I
starts
heard?
at 4 in the
you
morning.
have to wake up at
3. Yeah, I gotta be on the
3
lines at
a.m.
5.
Dude,
yeah.
just stay up on it.
Yeah, you'll be perfectly coherent.
Should
It's
be
fine.
fine.
So, that'll be
This
nice.
is Twitter, right?
This is Twitter.
It's on the
told me.
Twitters.
So coherence really isn't a requirement.
No.
Well, no, it's probably not at all.
You can't edit anything on Twitter, so you might want to make sure that you're right the first time. So maybe just a little bit.
Well, we'll see. It's going to be a lot
Let
of
me
coffee.
give you a preview of one of my responses. I agree. That sounds like a good plan.
Just
That is
Use that as you see fit.
There's not one moment where that will come out of you.
Damn it! Now I got to remember that and actually type it in.
Anyway. All right. Well,
Here's another one from me. That's probably the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Now we're talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll be a response to me though.
it should be lively, though. It should be good
Oh,
for
you're
us
going to
to learn how
respond
use
to
this whole-
yourself with that?
I'm not 100% sure how the tweeters works, so I'll
Okay,
probably
go.
end up
We're gonna learn it in
end up
real
responding
time.
to myself.
Yeah.
He's just going to be over in a black hole somewhere, just
Yep.
talking to himself.
The only people on here are me, and this guy's an idiot.
Like, who's this Dector guy?
God. Anyway, well,
He'll
cool. Well,
figure
that'll be
it
fun.
out.
So stay tuned for that. And I'll be getting up early. So,
Well, you'll probably have to get up early, Kevin.
I got to sleep
Egg
in.
McMuffin. Well, we've managed to ruin yet another episode of AV Super Friends Off the Rails. You can contact us with questions, topic ideas, or general complaints at mailbag@avsuperfriends.com. If you complain loud enough, we might just invite you on the show.
Nice work, everyone. Sharp broadcast. Really good. Everyone on the floor as well. Really a lot of hustle. I liked it.
The opinions expressed by the AV Super Friends are solely those of the individuals and do not represent their respective institutions, organizations, companies, or clients.